Hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Technology, I hate it. Anyway, folks, I'm gonna wait for a couple more people to join us.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're gonna go ahead and get started. I appreciate on short notice of everybody coming together on what we think is a very important matter. We're hoping to have neighborhood leaders as well as the appointee for the mentors for the Tampa Police Department. So we're waiting for her to come in.
Uh-oh. I
Hey,
lost the
Jamel.
screen.
Hi. I don't know if
Ah,
you can see me or not. There you are. Yes. Hi.
Okay, we have the guest speaker coming in a little bit. She just logged in. I am waiting for Joe Robinson to jump on.
uh-oh.
He's on board. I talked to him, so
Oh,
I screened it out, you know, so everything is okay. Okay, let me make sure I can see everybody who's here. So Maya is here. I'm waiting for her to unmute her mic. We're gonna give people about 5 more minutes. What time is it? 4:40, 4:33. We're giving to 4:36. And then we're gonna go ahead and get started. So let's do this. Let's start by introducing everybody that's in the room. What if any organization represent as we wait for other people to jump in. So Delphina, you can start off and then people can jump in behind you.
did you say me, Michael?
Yes, if you can start off.
Oh,
Who you are, your name?
Delphine Jones, Vice President, West Riverfront Crime Watch Group, and CHC board member.
Next.
Chief O'Connor, you want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm Mary O'Connor. I am the newly appointed police chief here in the city of Tampa. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I can do a little bit of bio and a little bit of background, but let everybody introduce themselves first and what they represent, and then we'll, dig a little bit deeper into it. Does that work?
Excellent, works for us.
Okay.
Next.
Thank you.
All right. I'm Janelle McGregor. I am the Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships for Mayor Castor. So glad.
Yeah.
Familiar faces.
We want to engage, so we be getting you next.
Hey.
So excellent. Next.
Hi, I'm Jamel Lene. Janelle and I are always get mixed up a lot, so we pretty much answer for each other sometimes at this point. But don't worry, if you need her, I will direct you to her. So my name is Jamel Lene, and I am the Public Information Officer with the Tampa Police Department, and I've been there since December 2019.
Excellent. I'm going to give folks about 2 minutes to get in. So Chief, if you was give us a little bio, so as we wait for other people to come in.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I spent most of my adult life here at the Tampa Police Department. I started working here at TPD in January of 1994. There was a hiring freeze in the city for about 4 years leading up to when I came on. So when I came on, I was the first class to come on in several years. So it was interesting to say the least when there was such a shortage on the street that people were so excited to welcome us aboard. So I worked for TPD for 22 years. I worked in West Tampa for a very long time. I was part of one of the very first West Tampa community oriented policing squads in 1996. And I worked North Boulevard Homes and, that surrounding area for a long time. So my heart's obviously, in that community quite a bit. I worked my way through the ranks. I was a detective for many years. I think that, obviously investigating cases is one of my specialties. Real passionate about trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And then as I made my way through the ranks, I worked in a number of different capacities. I was a lieutenant back in District 1. In about 2012, I was a shift commander. So came back home to District 1. I worked in the Criminal Intelligence Bureau. I worked in the Major Crimes Bureau. And then, as you guys know, I retired as the Assistant Chief of Operations in 2016. So within about 30 days of being retired from the agency, I realized I wasn't quite done with the profession and I really wanted to give back. So I went out and I broadened my professional perspectives a little bit, and I did some work with some DOJ funded programs, specifically violence crime reduction programs, technology, body worn camera programs. And I taught for an organization called FBI LEADA, which does law enforcement related leadership training nationwide. So in the last 5 years, I've been kind of traveling around the country, learning best practices that other agencies do, and now bringing it all back home and looking forward to bringing all these great things that I've learned in the last few years back to Tampa, to the city that I love. So that's it about me. You guys want to go into a little bit of detail about you or about yourselves, or that's entirely up to you, or should we just get started and jump into, what we want to do?
Whatever anybody's preference is, if you want to jump in and talk, you can. If not, we can definitely get on with the current program.
Sure, let's get on. Sure.
The level of violence and crime in our communities throughout the United States has reached a level of crisis. What we try to do in West Tampa is to look at what are the best practice approaches to reducing the violence and crime in our community. Today's presentation is going to talk about who we are as the West Tampa CDC and part of our public safety strategy to reducing crime, especially violent crime. I know, Chief, we send you ahead of time some of the best practices. We definitely going to be talking about the one in safe neighborhoods in Baltimore, because I think that holds a lot of promise as to how do we begin to change the narrative. So that being said, let's get started. So this is public safety, community health, and economic development. Normally, notice we use a 3-part strategy: public health, public safety, community health, and economic development as a solution to dealing with crime in the community. So we actually look at best practices. How do we change the playing field and do smart planning for neighborhood transformation? So all of you probably know these numbers, so I don't have to tell you. West Tampa got major problems in terms of crime, the level of poverty, the level of dropouts, everything that could possibly be bad is in West Tampa. But West Tampa is typical of most neighborhoods that I work with throughout the nation. So where is West Tampa? So as you can see the map right here, most of you that live in West Tampa, you're familiar with this. But for the purposes of those of you who are not, the West Tampa CDC covers actually 6 census tracts. Census tract 45, 44, 43, 50, 49, and 48. Those are the census tracts that we cover. And the reason why we focus on census tract is because if you want to truly know what's going on in the community, don't look at the zip code, but look at the census tract, and that's going to give you a true picture of what's going on in that neighborhood. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we use a community comprehensive approach to solving the problem. In terms of scope, we use holistic, comprehensive, as well as integrated approach to resolving crime in the community. I will be sending this presentation to everyone that's part of this presentation here. Now, the methodology that we use is to combine 3 schools of thought: neighborhood planning, community organizing, and economic development as an approach to community revitalization. So how do we do this? Well, we do this by putting together a strategy that brings together different partners. The whole idea is the community. the community controls it. And what the West Tampa CDC does is act on behalf of the community to carry out the vision, the problems, whatever they have, we act as the entity to carry that out. We partner with government, other nonprofits, the private sector, and institutions of higher learning in order to come up with strategies that focus on economic development, social development, and physical development. As you know, economic development is all about jobs and businesses. So that's what we focus on as it relates to that. Social development deals with everything related to people, senior citizen, youth problem, health problem, all these come under social development. And then we have found is physical development. Physical development deals with housing, open space, all that stuff comes under physical development. We can't do this without partnership. And as you can see here, these are some of the partnerships that we have been able to partner with over the years, both local, state, and nationally. So there are a couple of initiatives that's going on with the West Tampa CDC, but we will quickly go through them because we want to come up to our public safety initiative. One of our initiatives is the West Tampa CDC Healthy Community Initiative, in which we're focusing on health in the community, specifically African Americans, because we know the number of diseases that's in the community are very preventable if we change the diet. So that's a whole conversation we'll talk about in another presentation. The second part of our strategy is affordable housing. How do we create an opportunity for people to actually live in the community and not be genocide from the community? And of course, the West Tampa Public Safety Initiative, we're going to talk about that in a minute. And lenders and investors. Unlike most groups, we believe in public-private relationship. We can't do this without the private sector. That's how we engage lenders and investors. And we're going to talk about some of those public-private relationships that we've established in the community. Then we're going to talk about economic development related to the West Tampa CDC Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Center. What are our key focuses when it comes to public safety? We use a social, economical, and I'm not sure if that's spelled right, social economic approach to reducing crime. Two of our main focus is mental health and substance abuse. If you want to understand the number of people that's in jail, mental health and substance abuse seem to be a large contributing factor. So we look at both mental health and substance abuse as a focus. However, we use a three-pronged approach, and I'm sure the chief is familiar with this: prevention, deterrence, intervention, and the multi-generational approach. What does that mean? Well, if we want to oppose crime, we have to look at it from Generation Z, the millennium, your baby boomers, because each particular group of people has a special focus when it comes to crime. That's why we look at it from a generational approach. Unlike most, we focus on the hardcore, those that are hanging on the corner, those who are killing each other. Well, let's talk about the first strategy, prevention. In terms of prevention, our focus is on ending the school to prison pipeline. Some of the things we're doing is youth mentor program to actually mentor young people. The other thing we're doing, and this is very important, a lot of kids fall behind in school because they don't have that one-on-one tutor. And normally the schools cannot provide that benefit because there's so many students in school. So what we're doing is to pair with the schools and say, what our kids are falling behind in our community? And we want to take those kids to the side, nurture them so they can go back and be successful. Now, intervention. We want to talk about intervention. I'm going to show some quick videos. One of the strategies is called Safe Streets. We Are Us, CSPA, and ESCOM for Community Social Service, Social Change. What's interesting about this last group, and Chief, I didn't send you this group right here is a group of inmates that have decided to come back in the streets and create social change. so no other young person will follow that track. So that being said, let's go to the videos. Give me
To the criminals who once ruled them.
Okay, can everybody see it now?
Yes.
But that's what the Baltimore City Health Department is doing with its Safe Streets program.
Yeah, it hires former offenders to walk the streets interrupting violence. And for the first time, and without a police escort,
ABC2 News investigators are the first TV news organization trusted enough to go inside the program for a night on their streets. ABC2 News investigator Brian Kubler takes you where no cameras have ever been before.
Baltimore is infected. If violent crime is a disease, then after years of a steady remission, it's starting to relapse. But deep inside some of the city's most important arteries, much like a vaccine, old pathogens of violence are working to inoculate the very disease they once helped create.
Just pay attention to the areas where you see the assaults happening.
This is Safe Streets of Park Heights, one of 4 chapters around the city run by the Baltimore City Health Department. In short, Safe Streets is a public health model aimed at curing violence as if it's a disease. ABC2 is the very first media organization trusted to go inside this program at the street level, spending hours on a typical canvas walking these streets with the men who once ruled them. Reformed now as outreach workers and so-called violence interrupters to spread a different message to the high-risk youth following their old path.
But what makes them listen to you? Because I come from these streets. I grew up here. This where I'm from. I'm stopping another black brother from getting hurt. Another black brother from not going to jail. There's so many ways to throw away your life out here. I'm just trying to stop that. Just try to show them there's a different way.
Showing them a different way from the normal these incredibly tough streets have taught them. And walking through their small part of Lower Park Heights on a Thursday night, it didn't take long to see.
What people don't understand is like all of this can become a shooting.
That's right.
Just from them just standing there.
And while we were conducting this interview, it nearly did. In the background of our shot, you can see a Safe Streets outreach worker escorting a young man away from a conflict brewing on the corner. We agreed not to broadcast specifics, but just off camera, Aaron, the violence interrupter, was interrupting with a simple message to just walk away, challenging their instinct for violence, a way of life handed down over generations on these streets. A lesson many watching this may think is obvious, but the code of these streets is an altogether different reality.
If we weren't right there, something definitely would have happened. So if we hang in spots where something live would have happened, they know we standing there for something not to happen.
Safe Streets data shows 96% of their mediations in Park Heights were, quote, likely or very likely to result in gun violence. And the reason why they don't has everything to do with who these men are. They are Safe Streets' credible messengers. These men have not been saints, each with extensive records, some violent, each from these very same streets from a different time in their lives.
We got love for the community, we got love for the hood. That's why we do what we do.
Imhotep, the oldest and supervisor, learned to walk with a limp, once paralyzed by a bullet in one of the very same corner stores we visited this night. Other transgressions carry their own street cred, immortalized in one of the most critically acclaimed shows about Baltimore's code of these streets.
That's a big part of this, right?
Major part.
And you are a Barksdale of the Barksdales of The Wire, correct? I mean, that's a real thing.
Yes,
Your cousin was the character.
Yeah,
right?
Avon is definitely.
So let me pause for a second. Dante Barksdale was killed in the streets trying to save the streets. So the guy you see here, Barksdale, he was killed.
Character.
And you're his cousin.
Yeah.
So you know the life that you're trying to get these guys out of.
Exactly. I can identify with it.
And that's the credibility you guys drive from, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. You need steel to sharpen steel.
But the pen, as it most always does, may still prove mightier. The Safe Streets Project is backed by data but maintains absolutely no relationship with police. This work is done within the code of the streets, and none of what they do is shared with law enforcement. Each outreach worker has a caseload of up to 20 participants or high-risk youth they've identified as catalysts for the violence in the area. In less than a year, 20 of the 50 targets have gotten jobs. A re-education of social norms by, in most cases, the only type of men who have the experience to teach them.
I'm told all my uncles bang guns. All my uncles sell drugs. When I come outside, all I see is people selling drugs, robbing people. That's all that's going on in these neighborhoods.
A violent cycle these men have lived, but are now trying to break.
Y'all go follow that man right there. I knew that young man since he was a little boy, man. I try to stay on him, get him to do right and stuff like that, man. He a good guy.
How's he doing?
He got my head on right, that's what he's doing.
The Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health studied the effects of the Safe Streets program since it was replicated here in 2007. The 4 small sites where Safe Streets has been operating have shown, quote, consistent evidence of violence reduction. Park Heights has only been up and running since February. Success in numbers is hard to quantify. But the campaign is already medicating a stubborn disease.
When you're starting to talk to these guys, and there's that moment you can see in their eyes that it's clicking with them, does that happen?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
And how does that make you feel?
This is the reward.
Slowly inoculating a plague that's been claiming lives on these streets for generations.
Okay, let's quickly go through here. So we talk about intervention as a strategy. We talk about safety streets. We didn't talk about We Are Us, nor do we talk about ceasefire. All these programs we're duplicating, as a matter of fact, and bringing to Tampa. The ceasefire initiative is by mothers, a group of mothers that have lost their kids in the streets to violence. And what the study done by Johns Hopkins is that when they ask for a ceasefire, and it's every other quarter, they go out, they ask for a ceasefire, and believe it or not, based on the research, it actually is starting to make people change their way. Okay, here, deterrence. How do we begin to change the narrative in West Tampa? Well, we change the narrative by what's known as the West Tampa CDC Technology and Job Creation Center. Let's talk about it. First of all, it's a private-public relationship. Is everybody familiar with the Rome Yard deal?
Yes.
Well, we're part of that partnership. And what we're doing with that deal with the developer is they're focused on public safety strategies too. So they're using this right here strategy that we're talking about to help fund for the Tampa project. Now there are 3 components, a couple components to the strategy. First, to end the school to prison pipeline, to reduce the wealth gap, use technology as a way to leverage the playing field, increase public safety by creating success. Now, what we're going to do, and we're going to then go into the discussion after this right here, there are 3 areas that we come into. Technology. The Technology Center is going to have how to do software, game application, how to do artificial intelligence, mobile application. All these things are going to be learned in the community. It's our strategy to drop the gun and pick up technology. The other thing we're doing is our Performing Art and Production Center. That's going to be a video center, a radio station, all these things necessary to attract people off the streets to create live video production and commercial production. And the final strategy is our Wealth Building Center, in which we are working with residents to start their own job, specifically those that have a criminal record. One of the reasons why people talk to us about why they didn't pick crime, they say because our record is so bad, and we go to try to get a job and we can't because it's holding us down. So our strategy is to work with them to start their own business as a mechanism to bring in money. And finally, these are the different strategies that we're using to bring in money. Grant, social media, fee for service, development fee, consultant fee, own and operate your own business, and investment in security. So that being said, just want to give an overview of the West Tampa CDC and what we're doing. Now we can open it up for any questions that anybody might have. Was it that good? Anybody has any other questions that they want to ask the chief? Because this is important to us because we wanted the chief to see what was going on.
Yeah, I love it, Mr. Randolph. I really enjoyed that. I think there's a lot of great ideas here. We've got to have more discussions, and we need to have them on a more broad scale. You know, we need to reach a lot of people.
Yes.
But I want to hear from you guys. I mean, obviously, Mr. Randolph, you did some really good research on, you know, what some good programs are around the country. I really like the, you know, all of them. I think what is only fair is that I kind of see what Tampa PD is already doing. And obviously I've been gone for some time, just to see if we have any programs in place that even closely mirror this, and maybe just making them more robust, you know, to add more to it. Delphina, do you have anything you wanted to add? I'm sure you've been a little, you know, we've been watching the presentation. I think it's important that you have a few minutes
Well,
here.
as you know, it's a partnership, just like Mr. Randolph said, with everything
Right.
that we're doing in the community, with workforce development, making sure that it's a home-based project with the residents in our CAC area to stabilize the neighborhood and bring economic development, a sense of pride. And you know, when you foster that environment and put other things in place, like Mr. Randolph was trying to show example of, and
Mhm.
like I say, you're gonna have to go and look at what you can implement and plug into the situation, so far as the community. So like you said, we're gonna have it's gonna be a long haul, and we're gonna have to keep an open communication. That's gonna be the first thing that I'm gonna be expecting. You know,
Yeah.
when we come to you, or the community invites you out or whatever, that it's a cohesive understanding, and we get down to some serious issues and solve them and find implementations and different things to solve. Because
Yeah.
we've been at this, you should remember me because I remember you. But
Oh, you
you know,
do? Do you
you know
really?
how long, oh yeah, I'll be 63 soon. Yeah, I do. We've been at this for 27 years
Okay.
to get to this point. Which is kind of frustrating because I feel like we were sort of left out. We're the last of the Mohicans that's left, and we're still standing and still fighting. So this is something in the neighborhood I really want to see accomplished with the people who built this community and kept it going, to keep them in the neighborhood and give them a sense of security to stay in their own neighborhood. It's not going to work unless the people in the neighborhood have a say so and participate in the that part of
I
the
agree
process.
100%. Delphina, do you want to jot or give me your cell number, and I'll send you a text right now so you can communicate with me?
Yes, so my cell is 813-37.
The similar thing that we're doing in West Tampa, that is what I'm doing in West Tampa is going to be duplicated in Rovers Park. In addition to that, we have conversations with Philly, New York, Chicago is on board, Baltimore is on board. So we're talking about a national approach in the most violent communities in the nation, doing a multi-state approach to reducing violence in the community. And this is only one facet. There are so many different facets to reducing crime. This one right here goes to street crime and street violence. And that's another strategy we have, for example, with this general crime. But the strategy we talked about tonight is specifically for the street crime, the violence, the number of killing that's going on in the community. So it's
Yeah, right.
because that's what we've been hearing throughout the community.
Right.
It's a senseless killing. And we keep doing the same old thing, expecting a different result. So one of the things I was charged with is to say, what's working around the country and how can we tolerate that? I mean, how can we tailor that to the community as a strategy for public safety? Now, on March the 3rd, that's when we have the community-wide meeting. That's when anybody will come to that meeting. This meeting was more or less just to get to know us type of meeting.
Right,
We
right.
go to the general community meeting, because like you, we believe everybody should have an opportunity to weigh in. But we specifically, Chief, want to let you see what we're doing as the CDC from that perspective. And then as we already sent out the invites on the 3rd of March, it's going to be a community-wide meeting, which is the general community from West Tampa. Anybody else that wants to jump in is going to learn about what you're learning now about our public safety initiative.
And that's March 3rd, you said?
Yes, March 3rd. And I'll
Okay.
send you something on it, Chief. Again, it's going to be Zoom.
Oh, okay, okay, that works. Yeah.
So everything will be Zoom into this virus reduce itself.
Okay. I think that we're off to a good start. I mean, do you either one of you have any questions for me that I can answer about background? I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hit the ground running, but I definitely want you to give you the opportunity, because Delphina and Mr., just like you guys said, the only way to gain trust with the community is for you guys to have a voice, and you guys have input in these initiatives and what the Tampa Police Department is doing. And I'm very committed to that dialogue. I'm a big communicator, and I think it's really important that we, set the foundation now and kind of just move from there.
So, Chief, let me ask a question. Community policing, how important is that to you? And because we've also looked at best practices for community policing. We haven't been able to put that up on the screen yet, but related to community policing, because I know it does work. I remember, for example, in Baltimore, when I was on the opposite side of law, and then the strategy came on public safety, and they called this community policing thing. I've never interacted with police officers before, but because of that community policing thing, we got an opportunity to find out they just like us, same old, same old. And that community policing thing was important because they actually went out to talk about not just locking you up, but giving you resources. Hey, here's some information on substance abuse. Hey, you're looking for a job? Here, let me go in my car and let me give you that. Actually engaging the community, not only from the perspective of law and order, but social service as well.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't think community policing should be limited to one unit, right? I think it really should be a philosophy adopted by every member of the department, because like you said, getting out and engaging the community, I mean, that's what the police officers are doing when they're answering 911 calls, is they're talking to the community, but it doesn't need to be only in response to a call. Like, I think that dialogue needs to be in times of crisis and in times of just connecting. So I like the idea of community policing being a philosophy that's adopted by every member of the department 24/7. Call taking is just one aspect of that, if that makes sense. So it's not like, I just can't send one squad of 8 people out there and expect them to connect with the community. It's the job of every member of the agency, right? Does that kind of answer your question? I mean, that's kind of how I feel. Like I was saying earlier, I was on the West Tampa Community Oriented Policing Squad in 1996.
Yeah.
But I also, I loved that assignment. But even when I left West Tampa COP, I felt like I still needed to connect with the community. And I think if we just kind of revisit that philosophy department-wide, then we've got every cop in Tampa engaging with every community member, whether it's on a 911 call for service or not. So.
I like that holistic approach. Instead of just looking at one department,
right?
I like that. I've never heard that approach before, so that's interesting.
Okay,
it makes sense to.
Yeah. So
makes sense to me.
So she remember when we started that off in the firehouse.
Yes, the firehouse squads.
Right. And that's when we started the community engagement and everything.
Right.
And that was very successful. And when we lost that, we were very disappointed, but maybe we can come close to something, just long as we have the officers in the community, communicating with the public, and it's not always there on a contingency to arrest somebody. Because I mean, with all the plans that we have for development, it's going to be ample opportunities where we can plan things for officers to stop by and different things, and they've been doing that. Hello.
I hear you still.
They've been doing that to a certain extent when they come out in the neighborhood and have like that rally. and they visit the neighborhood. Some of those programs, I hope those are still going to be implemented. You know, the
Yeah.
program, yeah.
If anything, I think you both are going to see that the community engagement piece is going to be more robust than it was before. And
Yeah.
I don't want to talk ill of any previous administrations
no.
or anything,
No,
you know, but I mean, you're talking about firehouse squads, Delphina, that's
Right.
going back to like 1994.
Yeah.
But whatever aspect of that program that you liked, you know, let's revisit, because the one thing about Tampa is I think we've always done business very, very well, but there's always room for improvement. And sometimes dusting the dust off of some of these older initiatives and maybe revisiting them a little bit is not a bad idea while trying to implement new ones and best practices across the country. So,
Right.
you know, I'm wide open to suggestion. I think that's really where we need to start, is like throw our ideas on the table and maybe come up with some kind of a hybrid where everyone has, you know, a piece of the pie that they can throw in. So
Yeah, because we believe in, first of all, evidence-based, comprehensive, and holistic approaches to public safety.
yeah,
Here's what we do know. You cannot arrest your way out here.
nope.
You can arrest people all day long, but they'll keep coming back. So unless you're talking about strategies to transform them, educate them, empower them to think a different way, it's not going to happen. That's why we believe in going directly to the streets where the problem is and
Right.
making them part of the solution. Any other thoughts? Anything you want to say, Chief? You want to say anything to West Tampa? Because this is going to be out to West Tampa. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I want to give everybody my warmest, you know, welcome to the team. We are going to do this together as a team. That includes every member of the department and every member of the community. Let's do this together. Let's go out and take our crime fighting to the next level and keep our city safe, so everyone feels like they are in the best city in the nation. So, but again, I want to do it together. Let's collaborate, let's do it collectively, and let's do it as a team. So
Excellent.
thanks so much for the opportunity. Looking so forward to working with you guys. Give me a call. Let's talk things through. Let's have lunch, whatever you guys want to do. But in the meantime, keep me in mind for all of the upcoming meetings that you have on the agenda, because I will be at them.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for I know some community groups, they wanted to come, but it just wasn't getting enough time. As I told them, this is on the spot. I saw the chief Saturday over the radio station. The next thing I know, her and I talking on the phone Saturday and putting together a deal Sunday, and bam, it's here. So it was moving forward. But what I wanted to do was just to get an opportunity, because I know the chief is just coming on board. This will get an opportunity to say who we are, what we do, as we begin to move forward. It's like a new day, a new attitude, a new year, and a new approach. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing: a healthy community where people cannot worry about crime or anything of that nature like that. That's at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, and to make Tampa a best practice for the rest of the nation.
Yes.
Looking at us, that
Yes.
we take the lead. So that's also the end plan. Not this new program, but to do a best practice program where the rest of the nation is looking at us as the lead, because we're doing it outside of the box. So again, everybody, unless anybody have any final comments, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Again, we're going to be doing a community-wide meeting for the entire community. The reason why we didn't invite the entire community, because this is on a fast track. You know, we planned it Saturday, and bam, we did it Tuesday. So in the background, we wanted to get it up and out there, and then we can always come back and have a meeting with the entire community. So at least you know what we do. You met the chief. Got any emails? Email me at westtampacdc@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to forward her those emails. But at the end of the day, we can't do this unless we all do it. So thank everybody. Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.